Ladies and gentlemen, the interview is finally happening. Alexander Duncan, who's running for Senate in Texas. It has been an adventure for us with technical difficulties. I have more technical difficulties with Roger Stone than I did with Alexander. So obviously, God does not want, or not God, the devil does not want Alexander to get into office. So this is a battle of the good against evil, and this is Alexander Duncan. Now, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. It's it's been a work in progress, but we're finally
Yes.
here. I like to always tell people I'm a proud Texan by choice. I love this state. I love everything it represents, and I'm not here to change anything. I'm just here to try to protect it from the radical left, who's trying to so badly destroy this state. So I'm
Yeah,
here to protect our values and what Texas stands for.
and you're a police officer right now, right? How long you been in Texas?
Just over a year.
Okay, over a year. And you're a police officer right now. Is it in California? Where is it again? Is it Beverly Hills or
Yes, sir.
it's in Beverly Hills? So you're a Beverly Hills cop running for Senate, wearing a cowboy hat in Texas and want to protect our constitutional rights. Does
That's
that
right.
summarize it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This should be a movie about you. Cornin, right? Is that how you pronounce his name? Cornin?
John Cornyn.
Cornin? Yeah, John Cornin, who's currently in office. What do you disagree with him about that you want to unseat him?
Oh man, where do we begin? I mean, Cornyn's your typical career politician. He's been in office since '02, and he's done nothing for this state. He's basically betrayed Texans, betrayed conservatives. I knew about him when I was even in California, and I go, how's this guy running as a conservative when he stands in opposition to everything conservatives stand for?
Give me a
I
couple
th-
examples of what he stands for that's against the conservatives.
One of the biggest ones was the Safer Communities Act that he helped author, which infringed on our Second Amendment rights. He was big into red flag laws and going against due process, which is, I think, any law that seeks to limit or restrict our Second Amendment in any way is unconstitutional, and that's a huge red flag as a
That's
conservative.
very un-Californian of you, by the way.
Yeah, there's a reason I needed to leave. My political views did not align with anyone in that state.
Which is obviously a benefit to the MAGA movement.
That's right.
So,
Uh,
so, so, what else did he specifically do? He threatened the Second Amendment with these laws, and what else has he done?
He's been a huge supporter of the Patriot Act and FISA warrants, and we know how that's been used against Americans and been abused for way too long. And he continues to support it, which we need to end the surveillance state. It's ridiculous. We're under constant surveillance, and I know firsthand from being a police officer just the surveillance California is using against Americans, and it's not right. We should be using against these things against our adversaries, but not against American citizens.
Right, and the you've got 2 years to do this, right?
Correct. The primary is in March of 26.
And let me ask you, what impassioned you? Obviously, we know why you got out of California and you're in Texas now, but what impassioned you to decide to be, as a police officer, to actually run for a political office? That's a radical shift. I was actually recently speaking to Mark Lamb, and he's the sheriff running for Senate against Kerry Lake, and that's a very unique thing. So, you as a police officer, why are you willing to give up the career you have to go into the Senate and deal with all the politics?
I've always been interested in politics, and it was one thing I always have been heavily involved in politics. And even in California, I worked with this law and legislative committee that try to combat these leftist policies out there for, the benefit of police officers. But we've seen, even being a police officer in California, it's horrible. I wouldn't recommend anyone do it anymore because they want you to just do whatever they tell you. And they're pushing these radical leftist policies, agendas. The state is gone. And, someone once told me before, like, if you're not willing to make the change yourself, don't speak up about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I have nothing to lose at this point. So I want to make a change. I'm vocal about this. And I think it's time for non-career politicians to get into office. Because
And I understand that you want to hold on to the good policies of Texas. What do you think is lacking right now in Texas that you want to change?
what I want to change is just to stop the rise of radical Islam that's, infesting the state. They're trying to take it over. The Chinese own vast amounts of farmland that we need to take back control
Near
of.
our border, right? Near our southern
Correct.
border. A lot of
And
people tell them about that. Tell them about the what's going on with China.
yeah, a lot of Chinese owned farmland right along the border. And what are they doing? They're bringing in drugs across the border because Chinese work hand in hand with these cartels. It makes it an easy passageway to get these drugs across, especially
It's stopped
fentanyl.
now, though, isn't it? Isn't it stopped now with President Trump going 99.999%?
The border crossings have for sure stopped, but I don't know about the drugs. The drugs are still going to get in. We have this huge issue called Colony Ridge down south in Texas that, it seems like even Governor Abbott is complicit in, and it's been a travesty.
Governor Abbott's explain that one. That's a pretty bold statement.
Supposedly, he's received numerous campaign donations from the developers of Colony Ridge.
Interesting. I have to do a deep dive into Colony Ridge because I'm not that in tune with Texas politics like you are.
Yeah, look it up.
How do they get, huh?
I said, look it up because it's interesting. A lot of illegals were staying there. They're trafficking drugs in and out of it. And it was a well known issue, but no one wanted to do anything about it for a long time until X really brought light to it. And that's how people started finding out about it. They found out about these campaign donations. So it's been a huge issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. I'm kind of assuming that it's with the border basically closed. It's probably less of an issue now, but it's something to be aware of that's going on. How do people get in touch with you to support your campaign to run for the Senate seat in Texas?
So I'm constantly posting on X at Alex Duncan TX, and you can go to my website, duncanforsenate.com, which I encourage everyone to do because these races require vast amounts of money. And I know this is a grassroots campaign, but we're still going to need funding to get the message out, to advertise, to really get people involved. So I encourage everyone to go to duncanforsenate.com, and if they can, just please make a donation because every little bit helps.
Is there a way for you to get and actually talk to President Trump? Is there any avenues that you know of yet?
I'm working on some. I know some people that have connections with his team. I'm trying to get his ear some way, but it's one of those things.
Mm.
He's gotta be very careful with an incumbent being in office because he still wants, if Cornin wins again, he's still gonna need his vote to get things passed.
Yeah, and Cornin's been a little bit dicey with supporting the MAGA movement. I was looking into his record, and he's obviously apparently, courting President Trump right now because apparently he used his one of his political advisors for his campaign. So
Yeah.
he hasn't endorsed him yet, has he?
No, and I think from what I'm hearing is he's going to stay out of endorsing anyone in this race because he's playing politics. He knows he's going to need his vote if he happens to win again, which I completely understand because a huge issue right now, as we've seen with this weak GOP, is we're not getting these executive orders put into legislation, which we need.
Cognified. I can't remember the
Yeah,
word.
codified. We need to
Codified. Thank
codify
you.
all these executive orders. Or if we don't get it done in these next 2 years, we don't know what's going to happen. The Democrats could take control again, and then we're back to square one, which is going to be terrible.
Yes. Yeah, it's key. And that's what I'm saying is if people were like, right after the election, they're asking me, like, what are you going to do now? I'm like, are you kidding me? The fight has just begun. It has
Yes.
just begun. We've just set up everything. We're in the Great Awakening and we're in a digital bloody battle. Thank God for Elon, that I'm back on the air because of Elon. And so do you have a campaign manager or anything like that? Have you set up that structure yet?
So this is pretty much all grassroots with myself right now, but I have a communications director, which is Isabella. What's her last name?
You just call her Isabella.
Isabella. She
She's
was one
gonna
of
be
the.
watching this going, you don't know my last name.
I know. I don't know why I just
Yeah, you
drew
should have just stopped at the Isabella part.
Isabella De Luca. She was a huge. A lot of people know of her. She was arrested during the January 6th. Unjustly prosecuted. Luckily, she received a pardon from President Trump, so she's on board. And then I also have this guy Derek Ayala. He's been instrumental with the campaign. I think he's the one that reached out to you initially to get me on.
Oh yeah, I've spoken to him.
So he's been a huge help. So I'm getting people to volunteer and help, which has been great. And like I said, that's why I'm going to need these donations to come in so we could really make a strong push.
Yeah, the you're planning on attacking him, right? You're going to go with the attack campaign, like a Roger Stone style campaign. Is that what you're doing?
You know what? I'm just putting the facts out there. They're not attacks when they're facts. And these are just pure facts that he's betrayed conservatives. He's betrayed Texans. You can't call yourself a conservative and vote the way he does. I mean, he sides with Democrats almost 50% of the time.
50%?
Almost 50%. He should
Oh,
just
he's
call
one of
himself
those
a Democrat.
rhinos, huh? He's a rhino?
Yeah. His Liberty score is a 54%. I mean, it's terrible.
Okay, well then that's a good motivation to get you in, guys. We got to support Alexander. He's a patriot. He's a police officer. He's been brutalized in California. Now he's a Texan. He's been over here like a longer than a year. He's not a carpetbagger. Okay, and I saw his bullhorns on his wall, so he's a real Texan. But share this interview. Get it out there. Let people know who he is. The people will come. The man's got character. It's considered a short period of time, but it's still a year and a half until election day. I am going to do what I can to support him. I hope you will too.
Thank you.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to just say this in the interview. It's kind of like a conversation thing, not really an interview question. But you got to attack. You got to go after him. You got because the thing for me is he's well known, right? He's sitting in the Senate, right?
Yeah,
And
very well known.
you're not well known right now at the moment.
Correct.
So the way you attach yourself to that person is you go, and this is just typical politics. It's not a nice battle, but you can still be a Christian and still battle. Is you got to go after and attack and tie your name into his name, so people start to hear his name and they know Alexander Duncan's running against him. I've dealt with
Correct.
other people that I won't say their names that were much less aggressive, and I believe it cost them. So that's my personal advice. I'm sure you're going to have lots of opinions
Yes,
down
sir.
below in the comments after they said that. But we appreciate you. I know you're a good man. I want you to win. So
Thank
obviously,
you.
I'm operating as a political commentator now, not as a journalist. Not that journalists are neutral anyway. The journalists are like, I'm a journalist. I hate President Trump. And it's like, where's the journalism in that? You know what I mean? So I've
Yeah,
gotten so biased because I'm such a because I know how important President Trump is in office that I call myself a political commentator now. So
smart.
yeah, well, I'm not going to be like the typical ones, because
Yeah, well,
my only agenda is the truth.
we know mainstream media is just left wing propaganda, anyways. That's not journalism anymore. It's
Yeah.
orchestrated by the left and it's deliberate.
Yeah, and we found out by U.S. aid that the U.S. aid, our own government dollars, were funding, all the mainstream media to say the message the Democrats wanted to do.
Yeah.
Insane. It's insane what we're learning with Doge.
What Doge has exposed, I think the biggest travesty, and Sean Ryan has spoken out about this, but we're funding the Taliban. We're funding people who have killed numerous Americans over the years, and with our tax dollars now. The Afghanistan withdrawal was a travesty. We gave them all these weapons and equipment, and now we're still funding them. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I watched the movie Lord of War, I think is what it's called.
Oh yes,
And basically it's cheaper to leave the weapons there and then just make new ones, kind of feeding the military industrial complex so they have to keep making equipment. But
of
it was a
course.
lot more than normal. And of course they're using our Humvees driving around doing all this stuff. Plus the whole thing with the trans movement. Can you imagine trying to sell trans to a Muslim? To a Muslim. They want to throw them out off the buildings. I probably shouldn't say any more. I don't want to get this, I don't want to be picked up by the algorithms. But yeah,
Oh
just
yeah.
just insanity what they've been doing. Um, well, is there any more messages you want to give to anybody as we sign off?
I just want people to know, like, my campaign's heavily focused on reclaiming faith, family, and freedom in this country. Because as we've seen over the years, Christianity is just attacked nonstop. This is the reason I'm running, is because of my Christian faith. God pulled me out of the pit and gave me a new life and a new perspective on everything. And I'm nothing without God in my life, and that's really why I'm doing this, because I want to do it for God and do it for this country. Because we are a Christian nation, we need to get back to those roots. Our freedoms are God given, which many people forget, and that's why we got to protect these freedoms, protect the faith in this country, and we need to restore the American family. People forget how important that American nuclear family is, and we need to start supporting that and bring that back to life. So that's what I'm big on. I'm always going to speak out against the issues in this country. I've been shadow banned on X for speaking out against Islam, but we've seen that is a huge threat to this country right now. The UK has fallen. Even J.D. Vance said the other day when he was in the UK that we fear the first Islamic nation with nuclear capabilities. And we could say Pakistan is already that, but the UK is heading in that direction. And if we don't stop it now, they're going to take over. And they start locally. They start with local elections. We've seen it here in Texas. We have a now Muslim mayor in Richardson. And it's the start. And we got to put a stop to it.
Yeah, it's. I'm actually going to be interviewing somebody soon that's an expert on the Muslim religion, and the leftists have been all about separating us and breaking up the nuclear family with everything they can do. You know, with the trans dancing thing. What is that called? Whatever it's called. You know, just trying to groom our kids. Well, we appreciate you, and stay in touch. You know, guys, share this video, support Alexander,
Thank
and.
you.
Just know that we got your back, and I'm thankful that you're choosing to stand up, of course, for Christ, because I'm always, you know, they know I'm a Christian. I didn't plan this with Alexander. I didn't set that up. Every time somebody starts witnessing for Christ, when I'm on an interview, I'm like, I didn't set this up. They don't believe me, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So
I'll
thank you,
witness
Alexander.
anywhere, anytime.
Yeah. All right, brothers.
Thank you.
All right, brother. We are going to do this for Alexander Duncan for Senate in Texas. Support him. Go to his website. I'll set up the links in this interview and spread the word, repost it, and let's get him out there and make him as popular, more popular than the other guy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alexander.